Alright, so now let's talk about the second game of today, which is between the Philadelphia Union versus Nashville SC. And really, coming into this game, there was really two ways that this game would go. Whether this game would either have one goal that was the difference for both of these teams to move on into the conference final, or this game is going to go to extra time and potentially go the distance to a PK shootout to decide who's going to be making to the Eastern Conference final. And in the end, it was the latter. This game did go the distance, and it did go to a PK shootout, although it was definitely not a way that I thought it was anticipated, and especially with the way that I feel like this game could have easily not gone to a PK shootout. Have both of these teams actually had their shooting boots for the most part in this game. And then, of course, we also talk about that PK shootout that, yeah, anytime when the PK shootout score is 2-0 as your final score, you know something bad happened in that PK shootout. And there was definitely something bad that happened, including probably the worst penalty kick display we've seen the team has ever had in a PK shootout. But first of all the way back in the first half, the crowd was definitely into it. Like, it was a packed house inside Subaru Park, and the energy was definitely looking lit. I mean, I'm not saying that it wasn't lit in the last game when the Union played against the Red Bulls, but this one, you can definitely sense that the crowd, they want to see some history, because, again, this was a game between two teams that have never make it to the conference final, and regardless, we were going to see some history of seeing one of these teams making it to the Eastern Conference Final for the first time in their franchise history. But in the second minute, there was a scramble in the Nashville box, but the Union couldn't capitalize. Elvis Powell then drive one from long range in the 10th minute. A lot of these Union defender was very ambitious in this game, and I guess maybe that they saw what Jacob Lesnes did in that last game, and they thought, you know what, why not me? I'm gonna try to go long range too, and maybe be that hero. And in some way, the Union, with these last two games, it's almost like it's their defenders, the one that are actually attacking, and their attackers are kind of the one that is just not doing anything. And in some way, they're kind of doing a reverse way of how they attack, which is kind of weird to see, but so far it kind of had worked out for them for the most part. Liel then, yeah, he basically drive this one all the way into the Delaware River and maybe even into New Jersey. And, you know, even though they didn't show a replay of this, I believe Adrian Healy did kind of talk about how the crowd had that sarcastic cheer with the way the ball gone out of the stadium and basically gone into the Delaware River. And depending on, you know, geographic political standpoint, that one actually might have actually went into New Jersey. But yeah, that was a terrible shot from Randall Leal. Though that being said, there was another terrible shot in the 15th minute when Shibilko basically puts that one into Rosette. I mean, Shibilko, these playoffs, it has just been a disaster for him. Although he won't be the only player that had a disastrous game in this one, and a number 9 that kind of felt snake bit come out of this game. But despite those kind of horrendous misses that we've seen from both sides, there was actually already been more shots that was happening in this first 15 minutes than I expected in this one. I mean, I thought this was going to be a relatively tight game, but at least in the first 15 minutes, there's some half-decent chances for both of these teams to get the opening goal. But there was no doubt that I thought the Union was the better team in the first 15 minutes. And, you know, Nashville, they were just trying to sit in their low block and trying to maybe play a similar game that RSL did against Sporting KC, trying to maybe be patient and eventually find a point of the game where they can start to go on the attack and basically maybe grab a goal late to pretty much move on to the Eastern Conference Final. Leal then drive a dangerous ball into the 6-yard box, but no Nashville player was able to tap in the 25th minute. But then in the 38th minute, Nashville got the breakthrough, and this is where I thought this was it for Nashville, and maybe this is the goal for them to make it to the Eastern Conference Final. And who else it is? It's Hani Mukhtar. He scored from Miller and Johnston to give Nashville a 1-0 lead. You know, in many ways, this was just poor defending from the Union, especially on Elvis Powell's part, where, you know, you just simply cannot let Hani Mukhtar, who is definitely in conversation of winning MVP, and if the voting, of course, haven't stopped now, which I think it has already stopped, there's no doubt that Mukhtar is going to win MVP this season. I mean, he was just left completely naked in the 12-yard box, and you just simply cannot do that. He basically punished the Union for that mistake, and yeah, I thought that was the moment for Nashville to not only get that goal, and now they're are looking to just kind of hold on for the last 50 minutes and move on to the Eastern Conference Final, right? Well, not exactly, because right as we head into the stroke of halftime, it looked like Nashville was going to get the lead. The Union equalized. And it's Gastak, the ones that tied the game up at 1 apiece. They mentioned a lot of time throughout this broadcast how Nashville really struggled in terms of defending set pieces, and this was an example of it. I mean, they had some trouble in terms of trying to clear the ball out completely. They let the ball kind of bouncing in the box a little bit, and Gastak basically took advantage of it to tie the game up at 1 apiece heading into the second half. Now, we go to the second half. In the 49th minute, I thought Godoy might have got away with a hands to the face on Montero, and I'm pretty sure if you're a Timbers fan watching this game, you must be very salty about that moment, because that was exactly almost similar to what Asprilla did to Galvan, and of course Asprilla got himself sent off because of that. And you know, Montero didn't really kind of react as bad as what Galvan did, but in many ways I thought Anibal Godoy was very lucky. The fact that, you know, anytime when you put your hands in the face of an opponent, you're basically asking for potentially to get a red card, and he kind of got away with it here. But there was no doubt that I thought the Union was on the front foot early, and it looked like they kind of ride that momentum that they had at the end of the first half, getting a late goal and look to try to get that second goal. Though McCarty did hit one straight to Blake in the 54th minute, and then in the 61st minute, the Union thought that this was the moment for them to take the lead, and I'm pretty sure Sergio Santos thought that this was the moment for him to take the lead, because he should have done it. Like, he was basically going through on goal. He was one-on-one with Willis, and then he just kind of inexplicably decided to try to get over. Oh, actually, did I say? Oh yeah, I actually made a mistake here. No, he's trying to dink like over Willis. He's not trying to dink it over his goalkeeper, otherwise that would be an own goal. But here he's trying to dink it over Willis and maybe kind of be a little bit too cute in terms of that, and he got it absolutely wrong. I mean, yeah, you know, I talked about how Shapilko had a bad game. So was Sergio Santos. Like, this was a nightmare game for him, and there was some more bad things that kind of gone against him in this one. In the 70th minute, there was a shout for a handball in the box for Nashville, but that was not given. Santos then puts it wide from long range in the 72nd minute before Gastak thought that he scored the second goal of the game on him and also give the Union the lead, but unfortunately the goal was disallowed because there was a foul in the box. Remember how I talked about how Santos had a nightmare game in this? Yeah, he was the player that basically committed the foul. He basically fouled Willis there in the box. I mean, he didn't really put a lot of contact in terms of Willis, but you know, anytime when you make any contact on the goalkeeper, especially coming from a set piece, yeah, the goalkeeper will always get the benefit of the doubt, and rightfully so. That was a good call for it to be disallowed because of foul on Santos there on the goalkeeper Joe Willis. But then in the 80th minute, Elliott basically hits it wide on the free kick from 24 yards out. I told you, you know, these Union defender, they really want to replicate what Jacob Glesnes did in that game against the Red Bulls. And this one that Jack Elliott hit, I mean, you know, it's weird to see Elliott basically hits a free kick, but he actually hits that one pretty well, just a little bit high off the target. But I also kind of had a feeling that this has started looking very similar to the last game that the Union had against the Red Bulls, where they were really pressing for a winner. Like, they do not want to go to extra time once again, and their opponent kind of just feel like they're happy to play extra time in Nashville with them kind of under siege a little bit. They were taking their chances of going into extra time. Though, that being said, in the 88th minute, Randall Leal basically decided to have his trademark cross shot kind of effort, but unfortunately he hits it off the top of the post. I mean, this one was coming from, I believe near the byline, and the fact that he actually even got that one even close to the post is kind of a little bit remarkable, because that was almost an impossible angle for him to score, even with kind of like that cross shot effort. But then Santos tried to stab it in late in the second minute of stoppage time, but of course that one missed wide, because we know Santos is snake bit and is having a nightmare game. Another player that's snake bit is Jameer Montero, where he basically just drove that one into the stands on the free kick. Like, there was so much anticipation inside the stadium, and it was kind of a little bit anticlimactic when Montero basically drive that one into the stand from a free kick from 24 yards out. So, with the scoreline tied at 1 apiece, we go to extra time once again in a game at Subaru Park. And in extra time, Lovitz put an absolute rocket that was deflected for a corner. I don't know who exactly deflected that one off of the corner, but whoever is that Union player that did it, he basically is a savior, because that was going into the back of the net. Blake would have no shot in terms of saving that one. But there was no doubt that Nashville started the extra time strong, and again, the Union coming out flat heading into extra time, and you can even tell from the crowd, they were kind of a little bit restless of seeing the team come out flat once again in extra time. Though that being said, in the 99th minute, Wagner did try to do a random layout from a free kick, but this time it goes wide, though that won't be the last time he would try a random layout, because in the 100th minute, before Kadic hits it wide from close range, he decided to do the same thing, little cross shot effort, but this time it actually shook the post, and if that one actually would have went in, it would have completely caught Joe Willis out. But in the 107th minute, Kadic had another opportunity, but he puts it wide from close range. Kadic is another player that, yes, he did score in the last game against Orlando City, but he continued to be snake bit in terms of the chances that he's been getting. And also I kind of wrote that it really looked like that we were going to have a winner before we go to a PK shootout, because there was definitely chances, and both teams was definitely having opportunity to get the winning goal. And in the 113th minute, Lovitz himself would think that he should have got the winning goal, as he completely whiffs a shot as he went through on goal. And I know he's definitely going to be thinking about that all night, and even on the plane back to Nashville, with the way that if he would have scored that, this could have been completely different with Nashville going into the Eastern Conference Final. But that being said, Santos would have maybe in that same situation where, again, he's completely snake bit, just could not finish. He missed an absolute sitter from 4 yards out in the 116th minute, and that was really the last opportunity we had in regulation, which means we're going to go to a PK shootout for the second time in this playoff. And unlike in that PK shootout where we saw again between the Sounders and RSL, where that was a very entertaining PK shootout, where there was really nobody that missed a penalty until we get into like the 11th penalty that is take. Yeah, this one was basically the complete opposite. And you know how last year when the Quakes missed all their PKs and Sporting KC went on to win 3-0, and that was of course the Tim Melia show. Nashville probably saw that and said, yeah, hold my beer. I'm going to do it even worse than what you did, because not only the fact that they become only the third MLS team to miss all their penalty kick shootout, unlike how the Quakes missed 3 PKs in their shootout against Sporting KC, Nashville missed 4. And those 4 penalty kick, I think the only one I can say that was a good save was, oh god, I forgot who was the second penalty kick taker for Nashville, but I know the first one by Hani Mukhtar that was saved by Blake, that one wasn't a really good penalty, but the last 2 penalty that Nashville took, yeah, that was just incredibly bad. Also, I talked about earlier how Sergio Santos basically snake bit. Even in this PK shootout, he continued to be snake bit, as he was the only one that missed the PK for the Union. But man, Nashville, these last 2 penalties was brutal to see. I mean, Mule first completely missed the target in the 3rd penalty kick, and then in the decisive penalty kick with Walker Zimmerman set. Yes, Walker Zimmerman, of course, is not a guy that you would expect to maybe take a decisive penalty, but he's your captain. You would expect he should be the coolest man in the building there, and he basically just completely blasted that one wide, maybe even going all the way back to Tennessee, because that's where Nashville was going to be going. Their season is done after losing in probably, I wouldn't say it's an embarrassing way to lose, but with how they display in that PK shootout. I mean, I know some will also argue the fact that, well, maybe they should have just practiced a PK shootout during training. Practicing a PK shootout in training is completely different than taking a PK shootout in actual game, because there is definitely more pressure, and there's really no way to prepare for a PK shootout whenever it is in the game. But that being said, the fact that they didn't even bury a single PK, and none of them that I really think is worthy of, well, except for one of them that Blake saved in the second penalty kick, all the rest of them was just absolutely horrendous, this penalty from Nashville. And yeah, they of course Doors get eliminated in this game and once again fall short of making the Eastern Conference Final for the second year in a row. But for the Union, they are moving on for the first time in their franchise history, albeit kind of did it the hard way with the way that, you know, when you look at the stats in this game, they probably should have won this game in regular time. I mean, they had 24 shots in this game compared to just 13 that Nashville has. The problem is, only 2 of them was on goal compared to 3 that Nashville has. 12 of them was off target compared to 5 that Nashville has. 10 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that Nashville has. And possession-wise, 50% for both of these teams. And, you know, again, I'm going to say the same thing as I said with the Union. Yes, they, of course, get the win to the next round. And, you know, in the playoffs, it doesn't matter how pretty or ugly it is. If you make it to the next round, that is always great. But just another note, the fact that this team continues to struggle in terms of scoring goals, especially from their attacker. And I just don't think this is going to be a team that, you know, if you're expecting the Union to make it to MLS Cup or even win the whole competition, they need to get some productivity out of their attack. So guys like Santos, Montero, and even Shibilko, they really need to start to get going, because it's only gonna be a matter of time where if they put this kind of performance against an NYCFC team, or even maybe against the New England Revolution, depending on how that conference semifinal is going to do, I don't know if that's going to be enough to make it into the next round. But that being said, you know, I'm also a guy that's said before that defense sometimes wins championship, and so far at least their defenses really show up not only on the defensive department but also on the goal scorer department. So let's see whether or not if that is going to continue. But for Nashville, again, they had chances, and in some way, you know, they were kind of playing for a PK shootout. But if you're playing for a PK shootout and you don't do well, then yeah, that's kind of the way that they were trying to play it into a PK shootout. But nevertheless, I think it's a good year for Nashville, and definitely an improvement, despite the fact that they kind of got eliminated in the same round as they did last season. And now we'll see heading into next season, where I think they definitely have the pieces to once again get back to this stage. I think they still maybe need to add some more attacking power, because again, this season, especially down the stretch, Honey Mukhtar was the only guy that basically can score goals, and when you only have like one player that can score the goals for you down the stretch, that's not really a good recipe for you to try to compete and go down the stretch to be a team that could go all the way to MLS Cup. So we'll see what Nashville is going to do this offseason to hope to maybe add more attack to get themselves back into this spot, and hopefully next year make it even deeper into the playoffs. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think about this game. And of course, we have one more conference semifinal that's going to be happening on Tuesday. And finally, we're going to get the New England Revolution after 23 days of rest. Going to be playing against NYCFC in the conference semifinal. And we'll see who, of course, will get the last spot in terms of the conference final on Tuesday. But yeah, until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I, of course, will see you guys next time.